The Dyatlov Pass incident, a chilling mystery in the Ural Mountains. In January 1959, a group of 10 experienced hikers and skiers, all students or graduates of the Ural Polytechnical Institute, set out on an ambitious expedition. Their goal was to reach Otorten Mountain in the northern Ural Range, a trek rated Category 3, the most difficult, with temperatures expected to drop as low as minus 30 degrees Celsius. The group was led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, an experienced mountaineer and ski hiker. The other members were Yuri Doroshenko, age 21, Lyudmila Dubinina, age 20, Yuri Krivonishenko, age 23, Alexander Kolovatov, age 24, Zinaida Kolmogorova, age 22, Rustem Slobodin, age 23, Nikolai Thibault Brignol, age 23, Semyon Zolotaryov, age 38, Yuri Yudin, age 21. On January 27th, they arrived in Vijay, the last inhabited settlement to the north. The following day, they began their march toward Otorten Mountain. The journey takes a turn. On January 28th, Yuri Yudin, who had been suffering from joint pain and had fallen ill, made the difficult decision to turn back. This fateful choice would save his life and make him the sole survivor of the group. The remaining 9 continued their trek. Their diaries and cameras, later recovered, painted a picture of high spirits and camaraderie as they made their way through the snowy wilderness. On February 1st, they began to ascend. Their plan was to cross the pass and make camp on the other side. However, deteriorating weather conditions and decreasing visibility forced them to alter their route. They found themselves on the eastern slope of Kholat Syakhl, translated as Dead Mountain in the local Mansi language. As the sun set on February 1st, 1959, the 9 members of the Dyatlov group found themselves on the eastern slope of Kholat Syakhl. What transpired over the next few hours has been the subject of intense scrutiny and speculation for decades. Here's a detailed look at what we know and what has been inferred about that night. The group chose to set up camp on the slope of Kholat Syakhl, about 10 meters below the crest of the ridge. This decision has been questioned by many, as moving just 1.5 kilometers downhill would have provided them with forest cover and protection from the elements. Some speculate that deteriorating weather conditions or fading daylight might have forced this decision. The group dug a platform into the snow and erected their tent. They laid their skis and poles alongside the tent to reinforce it against the wind. Inside the tent, they arranged their sleeping bags and personal belongings. Evening activities. Based on diary entries and photographs recovered later, the group seemed to be in good spirits. They likely shared a meal and may have sung songs or played games, as was common on their trips. The mysterious event, time of incident. The exact time of the incident is unknown, but it's believed to have occurred sometime between 9:30 p.m. and 11:30 p.m. This estimation is based on the digestion rates of food found in the hikers' stomachs during autopsies. Sudden departure. Something caused the group to suddenly cut their way out of the tent from the inside. The cuts were made along the slope side of the tent, not the entrance. This suggests a high level of panic or urgency, as using the entrance would have been quicker and easier. Footprint analysis showed that the group left the tent in an orderly manner, not in a chaotic rush. They moved away from the tent in a line, with some members wearing only socks or a single shoe, others barefoot. The tracks indicated they were walking normally, not running, which has puzzled investigators. The separation. 2 groups. At some point, the 9 hikers appear to have split into 2 groups. 5 members, Dyatlov, Kolmogorova, Slobodin, Thibault Brignol, and Krivonishenko, headed towards the forest. The other 4, Dubinina, Zolotaryov, Kolovatov, and Doroshenko, moved further down the slope. The cedar tree. Doroshenko and Krivonishenko made it to a large cedar tree about 1.5 kilometers from the tent. They attempted to make a fire, evidenced by burned branches and singed clothing found at the site. Both succumbed to hypothermia at this location. 3 members, Dyatlov, Kolmogorova, and Slobodin, apparently attempted to return to the tent. Their bodies were found at varying distances between the cedar tree and the tent. Their poses suggested they had collapsed while trying to crawl back up the slope. The ravine. The remaining 4 members, Dubinina, Zolotaryov, Kolovatov, and Thibaut Brignol, were found much later in a ravine. They had made an improvised shelter, suggesting they survived longer than the others. These 4 had the most severe and puzzling injuries, including crushed ribs and fractured skulls. The temperature that night was estimated to be around -25 to -30 degrees Celsius, -13 to -22 Fahrenheit. Wind speeds were likely high, potentially creating a wind chill effect that made it feel even colder. Some reports mention a possible snowstorm, though this is debated. Lighting conditions. It would have been very dark, with the moon providing minimal light, if visible at all. Some reports mention strange lights in the sky, but these remain unverified. Radiation. Some of the clothing found on the bodies had higher than normal levels of radiation. The source of this radiation has never been definitively explained. The tent was found still containing the group's shoes, warm clothing, and other survival gear. Food and cameras were left behind, suggesting the group did not expect to be gone long. Some of the victims' clothing was found to be others' clothes, implying they may have shared clothing in their last hours. The events of this night remain one of the most perplexing mysteries in modern history. Despite numerous investigations and theories, we may never know exactly what transpired on the snowy slopes of Kholat Syakhl that February night in 1959. When the group failed to return as scheduled, a rescue operation was launched on February 20th. On February 26th, the searchers made a grim discovery: the group's abandoned and badly damaged tent on the slope of Kholat Syakhl. The tent had been cut open from the inside, and footprints in the snow, some in socks, some in a single shoe, others barefoot, led away from the tent toward the edge of the nearby woods. The prints suggested that the group members had fled in a hurry, not even taking the time to properly dress. Grisly discoveries. About 1.5 kilometers downslope, searchers found the bodies of Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishenko near the remains of a small fire under a large cedar tree. They were shoeless and dressed only in their underwear. Branches in the tree were broken up to 5 meters high, suggesting that someone had climbed it to look for something, perhaps the camp. The bodies of Dyatlov, Kolmogorova, and Slobodin were found at intervals of 300, 480, and 630 meters from the tree, in poses suggesting they had been attempting to return to the tent. It wasn't until 2 months later, on May 4th, that the remaining 4 bodies were found under 4 meters of snow in a ravine 75 meters further into the woods from the cedar tree. The subsequent investigation raised more questions than it answered. Why had the group cut their way out of the tent instead of simply unzipping it? Why had they fled into the freezing night, most of them partially clothed and without shoes? What had caused them to abandon their camp in such a panic? The official investigation concluded that 6 of the group members had died from hypothermia, while the other 3 had suffered fatal injuries. Thibaut Brignol had major skull damage. Dubinina and Zolotaryov had major chest fractures. Dubinina was also missing her tongue, eyes, part of the lips, as well as facial tissue and a fragment of skull bone. Despite these injuries, no soft tissue damage was found, and it was concluded that the force required to cause such damage would have to have been extremely high, comparable to that of a car crash. Theories and speculation. The official Soviet investigation determined that a compelling natural force had caused the deaths. The case was closed and classified as top secret. Relatives were only permitted to read a few documents from the case files and were prohibited from making copies or disclosing the information. The mysterious circumstances surrounding the Dyatlov Pass incident have led to numerous theories over the years. Here's a detailed look at each of the main theories. Avalanche theory. Proponents argue that an avalanche forced the group to quickly cut their way out of the tent and flee. This could explain the panic and why they left without proper clothing. Critics point out that the scene lacked typical avalanche indicators, such as disturbed snow patterns or debris. The slope was also not steep enough for a typical avalanche. However, some recent studies suggest that a smaller, delayed avalanche caused by a cut made in the slope to pitch the tent could have occurred. Katabatic winds. These are powerful winds that carry high-density air from higher elevations down a slope under the force of gravity. Proponents suggest that intense katabatic winds could have created infrasound, causing panic among the hikers. The winds could have been strong enough to damage the tent and create disorienting conditions. This theory could explain why the hikers left in a hurry, but doesn't account for the physical injuries. Infrasound-induced panic. Infrasound is low-frequency sound that can be produced by wind interacting with topographical features. It can cause feelings of awe or fear, nausea, and panic attacks. This theory suggests that infrasound caused by wind could have induced panic in the group, causing them to flee irrationally. While it might explain the group's behavior, it doesn't account for the physical injuries. Military testing. Some speculate that the Soviet military was conducting secret weapons tests in the area. This could explain the reported orange spheres in the sky and the radioactive contamination on some clothing. Proponents suggest a misguided parachute mine or some other weapon test gone wrong could have caused the injuries and deaths. The theory is supported by reports of military presence in the area and the secrecy surrounding the incident. However, no concrete evidence of weapons testing at that location and time has ever been produced. Paradoxical undressing and animal scavenging. This is not so much a standalone theory as an explanation for some of the puzzling aspects of the scene. Paradoxical undressing is a known phenomenon in hypothermia cases where victims remove their clothes due to a sensation of burning heat. This could explain why some bodies were found partially undressed despite the freezing temperatures. Mansi attack. Some have suggested that the indigenous Mansi people might have attacked the group for encroaching on their sacred lands. However, this theory is generally discredited as the Mansi were known to be peaceful, and no evidence of other human presence was found at the scene. Internal conflict. This theory proposes that some sort of disagreement or fight broke out within the group. While it might explain some aspects, like the hasty departure from the tent, it fails to account for many other factors, including why the group didn't return to the tent or why they all perished. Despite decades of research and speculation, none of these theories fully explain all aspects of the Dyatlov Pass incident. The combination of strange circumstances, physical evidence, and the harsh, remote location continues to make this one of the most perplexing mysteries in modern history. Despite numerous expeditions, investigations, and even a reopening of the case by Russian authorities in 2019, the true events of that night remain shrouded in mystery. In 2008, the Ural State Technical University monument to the group was erected near the site of their deaths. To this day, the pass where the incident occurred is called Dyatlov Pass, in honor of the group's leader. The Dyatlov Pass incident continues to captivate the imagination of people worldwide, serving as a chilling reminder of the power of nature and the enduring mystery of the unknown.